All right. So welcome everyone. We are glad you're here with us for the first in what's hopefully a long running series about the business of teaching artistry. My name is Ashley Brown. I am the Deputy Director at the South Carolina Arts Commission. I'm joined by my colleagues, Kimberly Washburn Motte, our Arts Learning Director, and Amanda Noyes, our K-12 Arts Education Coordinator. We are thrilled to be hosting all of you today. And we are thrilled to welcome my dear friend, Jef Lambdin. A little bit about Jef before we get started. Jef is a teaching artist. He shares workshops and residencies in mime, theater mask, circus arts, playwriting, ensemble techniques, melodrama, and commedia dell'arte, as well as in arts integration. He, along with Sheila Kerrigan, is a founding member of the Southeast Center for Arts Integration. In 2010, he attended the Lincoln Center Institute International Education Workshop, and he was a North Carolina A+ Fellow from 2005 until 2021. He's also a performer, sharing his mime, variety arts, and mask theater for children and families at fairs and festivals throughout the South, and the Interactive Theater of Jef. Upcoming performances include performances at Earth Day Charlotte, Merle Fest, and the South Carolina Strawberry Festival. From 1976 to 93, Jef was a member of Touch, North Carolina's touring mime theater ensemble. And from 1993 through 1997, Jef created the character and performed as Wool E. Bull, the mascot for the Durham Bulls baseball team. If you have not worked with Jef before, you're missing out. He is truly a joy to work with, and I'm really excited that we all get to learn from him today. So with that, I will turn things over to Jef Lambdin.
Well, thank you, Ashley, and everybody. Amanda Noyes at the Arts Commission, she's sort of going to be running the ship today. So she'll be doing all the slides. She'll be helping with pick who's got questions, et cetera, et cetera. So welcome, webinarians from all over. Welcome to the South Carolina Arts Commission's inaugural professional development workshop for teaching artists titled The Business of Being an ArtsGrow SC Teaching Artist, Nuts and Bolts, an overview of what you need to know to grow your business as a teaching artist. I'm Jef Lambdin, and I'm a teaching artist. And I'm your host for all of these professional developments, whether they be virtual like this one or live like we will do later in the years. Okay. Now, we're going to be hearing from the likes of Ashley and Amanda later in the webinar. They will be talking about South Carolina Arts Commission things like the Directory, ArtsGrow SC. And I want you to know this webinar today is 2 hours long, and it is the first in a two-part series. Tomorrow we will meet again for another 2 hours. And it will also be from 4 to 6 p.m. And we've designed today's event so that a topic is introduced. And then after the topic is introduced and I talk for a little while, we'll open it up to questions. For questions, you can either type them into the chat or raise your electronic hand. And for those of you who are unfamiliar with Zoom, if you raise your hand, you go to the top of the queue and Amanda can see you well. If you just raise your hand like this, she can't sometimes, if we have several screens of people, find who is asking a question. So please do raise your electronic hand if you don't type it in the chat. All right. If we could have slide number 1, Amanda. And the electrons are working, yay. Okay. You guys, I want you to realize that this is a 3-year project of professional development for teaching artists. This is the first webinar, and it's an overview of the business of teaching artistry. Now, I said at the end of each section, we will be having questions. If I don't get to all the questions, if I don't get to your question, please feel free to contact me. Here is my contact information, phone number, which I answer, and email, which I answer eventually. So I'll be happy to respond if we don't get to all your questions today. That said, if you could go to the next slide, Amanda. Now, in future workshops, we will dive deeper into all of the subjects I'm going to cover today and tomorrow, one at a time. All of the workshops that are webinars like this are being recorded, and they will be available in the future on the South Carolina Arts Commission's YouTube channel. For all of you who have registered for this event, you will, when it's ready on the South Carolina Arts Commission YouTube channel, you will get a link. You'll be sent to you to your email because you registered. All right, if you could stop sharing, please. And we're back to people. Now, I want to begin with a topic that is near and dear to my theatrical heart: stillness. Stillness is a powerful tool. We use it in theater all the time to manage the focus and attention of the actor and the audience. So if you will, I'd like you to join me in a moment of being still. Here's how it'll work. In a minute, I'll do a countdown. I'll go 3, 2, 1, stillness. And at the end of the countdown, I want everybody to be still in their screen. And I'll talk to you for a moment. Ready to play? Yes? Okay, here we go. 3, 2, 1, stillness. Now, to remain totally still, you have to keep breathing. So if you hold your breath, eventually you gasp for air. That's too big a movement. No, we don't want that. We want you to take little tiny breaths that no one else can see the whole time you're being still. Okay, everybody, release, relax for a moment, because we're going to use this new skill now that you are fully trained in stillness. We're going to use the idea of stillness to express an idea. I'm sure you've all been on a Zoom before when the entire screen locks up and everybody is electronically still. Well, we're going to recreate that moment intentionally. And you're going to use your new skill of stillness. Now, this time, after I do the countdown, I'd like you to become still in a pose that shows what you're feeling right now. So think about it. We're at the beginning of an adventure. You've just logged in. We're all here together. You're looking at all the faces. Assess yourself. How are you feeling? Are you excited, worried, thoughtful? Right? Could be anything. So take a moment and ascertain how you are feeling. Just make a choice. Okay. Now, here we go. I'm going to go 3, 2, 1 stillness and talk to you again. And I want you to be still while I talk to you because I'll be giving you an assignment. You ready? Ready? Got your pose ready? Everybody's, do we need to rehearse? We're good to go? Okay. 3, 2, 1, stillness. And what I want you to do, stay in your pose and stay still, but look at the screen full of images. And I want you to pick one of them that particularly interests you. And what I want you to do is, I want you to come up with a phrase, a very short group of words that describes best what interests you about that pose. Okay, release. Everybody relax. Now what I want you to do is go to the chat and type in that phrase, what interested you about the pose that you saw on the screen. Just a few words, a phrase. Oh, my aching head. I'm listening. Deep concentration. Man with hand on chin, look curious. Consternation, willingness, listen. Tension. Look at all these great, wonderful comment. Thoughtful. More people should listen. A lot about listening here. Okay, happy. Okay. Now, this simple exercise, I wanted to start with it because it embodies all of the skills we will need for the rest of today and tomorrow and all of the webinars that we do and all of the live professional developments we do. You all made a contribution, right? You made a still pose for other people to look at. This is important. We must all be willing to make contributions. It's not just me talking here. There's a lot of brain power in this entire group. and we must be willing to make offers. Second, you accepted the offer of another. You looked at someone and in your mind's eye, you assessed and made up a phrase about it, right? So you accepted the offers of others, and that's the other part of this that we all need to be strong about. So we need to be willing to make offers and accept the offers in order for this to work. Cool? Ready to begin? And I didn't even make you get out of the chairs yet, right? Okay, good. Now, as I said earlier, I'm Jef Lambdin. I'm a teaching artist, but I think it's important to you to know a little bit more about me so that you can assess everything that goes on from here on out. I make my living as a performer, not as a teacher. I'm a mime, a variety artist, and a juggler. Now, after my training in the mid-70s, I became a member of a mime troupe, and it was called Touch Mime Theater, and Sheila Kerrigan, who is on your screen and waving right now, was my partner in that endeavor. So for 17 years, Sheila and I and various other mimes toured the United States. We created our own material. We performed for everybody from kids in daycare center to people at Lincoln Center. We performed in prisons. We performed at arts councils. We performed for anybody that would have us. We performed even at Piccolo Spoleto. We did. Now, if you could give the next slide, Amanda. All right, I still am a performer. I perform on a regular basis, sharing my work with children and families. I perform at fairs, festivals, and events, mainly in North and South Carolina. Can I have the next slide, please? So I make most of my living as a performer, but I'm also this thing we call a teaching artist. I share my work educationally with students of all ages and with teachers. I use my art to sometimes just teach my art, but mostly I use my art to teach other subjects in school curricula, from science and English language arts to physical education. If you'd stop the share, please, Amanda. Now, Jef as a teaching artist didn't spring forth from Ashley's forehead 20 years ago. No, it was a very gradual thing. Now, even when the mime troupe I was with Touch, we were performing in schools, and we were being asked on occasion to stay after our performance and go into the classrooms to answer questions and to talk to the students. And then we did a little research and we found out that that was a much more educational way to share our residencies. So we started doing it intentionally. And we always included workshops after a show. That was what we called a one-day residency. Now, after Touch closed its shop in 1993, I started performing with another partner, and now I'm on my own. But around the turn of the century, I love saying that, around the turn of the century, I was asked by a middle school coordinator to not only teach mime, but also to parallel it with the English language arts standards. I didn't know what a standard was. I didn't know that English language arts had standards. I didn't know any of that. So I boned up on it and found out that, of course, there are many similarities between English language arts and theater. You know, communication, beginning, middle, end, conflict, character, setting, a lot of things like that. So I started to become acquainted with this idea of teaching through my art. And as this part of my profession grew, I became very intentional. And I was invited to become an North Carolina A+ fellow in 2005. And from 2005 to 2021, I was an A+ fellow. And through that program, I was trained in all of these things, from arts integration, multiple intelligences, teaching techniques, neuroscience, and all around arts education. As Ashley told you earlier, in 2010, I attended the Lincoln Center Institute International Educator Workshop. And there I was exposed to world-class professional development, exploring the arts, imagination, and inquiry. Now I continue my studies, even though I'm not affiliated with anybody. Lately, I've been working on the idea of social emotional learning in relationship to arts education, and also pre-performance routines. Athletes do them all the time Why are we not using them in classrooms before we do something? Why do we not have a lock on this so that we get ready to do something? Anyway, I've been looking into that. And the last thing I've been working on is, what does your brain do when you do art? And that fascinates me because it's all different parts, all different things, and they're all connected. It's a wonderful thing. So I'm still learning, I'm still exploring. So that's me in a nutshell. For the record and for comparison, in a year, I usually make about a quarter to a third of my living from being a teaching artist. I do between 12 and 16 residencies a year, and that's important to me. It's important to me to be an artist that also teaches, and it's important to me that if I am going to teach, I am going to continue being an artist. When I stop being an artist, I will stop being a teaching artist, because that's my definition. Other people have different definitions, and that's fine, but this is just for me. All right. Now, as we get into the meat of this session, I want to remind you that these workshops are about business. It's not about art. I firmly believe that all teaching artists first must be good at their art, and that's why you want to share it with the children of South Carolina. I would want nothing less for them. And I leave your artistic
So we know that Jeff's internet might be a little unstable. So he said if this happens, just to let it catch up. Hey, Jeff, we lost you.
You lost me. Am I back?
Yep, you're back.
Okay. I didn't become an artist to do all this rigmarole. I became an artist to save the world. I did. That's what I was going to do. When I started out, I was going to make mime that turned the world around. And I'm still working on that. But what I'm doing here now is I'm offering you this information so that you can be efficient in your business, so you can do the business with ease. Now to the nuts and the bolts.
We lost you for a second, Jeff. You ready for your next slide?
Yeah, next slide. I don't know what's happening
perfect.
with the audio. Sorry. Oh, live transcription has been enabled. Okay. Good. Maybe if I get rid of that. Now, the South Carolina Arts Commission Arts Directory defines a teaching artist as an artist who wishes to teach residencies or work in classrooms. Now, that's now the definition. However, being the ArtsGrow SC has plans to broaden this so that teaching artists can go into health areas, they can go to senior centers, they can go to summer camps, they can go to after schools, and that will change with time. But right now, do not be afraid.
Jeff, if you can hear us, we lost you again. Uh-oh. Did we lose him for good? Sorry, folks. Let's give him a second to log back in.
Yeah, that's right what he's doing.
All right, I'm back. Did you miss me?
Yeah,
Okay, I'm sorry. I live in a rural community and we don't have broadband. And so I apologize for any unplanned absences as we do this. Okay, let's get to it. If we could have the next slide, please. Okay. If you are a teaching artist, that means you are called an independent contractor. You're not an employee of any of the entities who hire you. Okay, that's the first thing you need to know. You work under a contract. So, what's a contract? A contract is a promise enforceable by law. Now, the making of a contract requires the mutual assent of two or more persons. One person usually makes an offer and it's accepted by the other one. That's usually how a contract works. And if one of the people does not fulfill their part of the bargain, the other is entitled to legal redress. That's what makes a contract different from an agreement. What this means is that you and your business is that you must enter into all agreements with sincerity, and you are responsible for all your own bookkeeping, all your financial reporting to the IRS and to the state. All right. And in 2022, the two financial reporting forms with which you must be concerned are called the W-9 form and the 1099 NEC form. All right, if we could have the next slide, please. The W-9 form. Whenever you get a job, you as an independent contractor need to send this form to the people that hire you. It lets them know how much to withhold from your pay and send to the government. It can be zero, it can be more, right? But this is the form that you send to them. Consider completing for your clients a new W-9 form each year and when your personal or financial situation changes. We can have the next slide. This is brand new. That 1099 NEC, which stands for non-employee compensation. Before this, we would get from our sponsors, every year I would get a 1099 miscellaneous with box 8 checked, which was non-employee compensation. So many people now are working as contractors. The IRS has a new form, and I started getting these about a month ago. And this is the form you receive from them. Now, it's really important to realize that once you have agreed to work for somebody, they send this form to the IRS so the IRS knows what you have made. And you are responsible for being honest about all of your reporting. You will get a 1099 from a sponsor if you have worked for them and achieved $600 or more for your services that year. Okay. So if you'll stop sharing the screen. What questions do you have? Contracts, IRS forms. It's just one big party. Good. No questions? They say to wait 7 seconds after you ask something like that, so people can cogitate.
Hey, Jeff.
Yes, dear.
I will mention here, we're talking about some ways that we can make being on the Arts Directory more beneficial for artists and teaching artists in the future. So in the next few years, we are looking at doing something that's kind of the equivalent of like a shared Google Drive for folks that are on the directory. And with that, we're thinking about the possibility of doing sample contracts. Just kind of a thumbs up, thumbs down. Is that something that people would like to see? Okay, I'm seeing thumbs up. Okay,
Good.
great.
And I see Anita would like to know what should be in a contract, the most important items. Who you are working for, when you will be there, what you will be expected to do, how much you will expect in remuneration. And then this is the new one, a COVID clause. When COVID-19 hit the United States. I lost all of my contracts for the year except 3. So I went from 81 performances a year to 3. And they could do that because it was an act of God, which is a term in the contracts. Nobody expected it, so they could. Now, however, everybody knows about the coronavirus. And if a school system shuts down and I am not able to go when I'm scheduled, they are liable to pay me because it's no longer an act of God. They should have planned for this. So in today's contracts, there's always a clause that says if the sponsor is unable to fulfill this due to the federal, state, or local government authorities, then they're off the hook. And because of that, I add a clause into the contract usually that says, if I think it's too scary to come to your community because your numbers are off the charts, I'm off the hook and I owe you nothing. If they can put in a clause like that, I can put in a clause like that. Does that make sense? Good, let me see. Sample contracts would be great. Most important, I tried to fill out the forms for artists as teacher before the 2020. Now I can't find a way on the Arts Commission site to find it to complete it. We will show you where all of that is later. This is Elizabeth who is asking that. And when I think Amanda comes on, she's going to talk about the Arts Commission directory and how to become a certified teaching artist in South Carolina. So she'll lead you through that then.
Jef, we also had a question about pay, and I think we're also going to get to that later too, right?
Yes, I am going to have a whole section about pay. Right, what you can expect to be paid. Are these contracts actually negotiable? Yes. Yes, all contracts are negotiable, but you have to negotiate them up front. You can't sign a contract and say, oh, I forgot, I need this. Once you sign the contract, you're liable to fulfill the contract. Most of the time, people can work with you, but asking for more money because you forgot something is not a good excuse. My teachers and end contracts are take it or leave it. These are flexible. I'm going to talk about the fees in a whole section in a moment about how to negotiate what you think you're worth and what the world thinks you're worth. It's a different thing. Good.
Jef, I would also add to that, our experience at the agency has been for our grantees that if you're working with school districts, typically the larger the district, the less flexible things like contracts are.
Absolutely.
If you're working in a smaller district, there's usually more sort of interpersonal negotiating options as opposed to really large districts. And maybe Cindy could speak to this as well. I think you're here, Cindy. But typically in larger districts, it's going to be a little more rigid as far as contracts are concerned.
And that's true with the state of South Carolina too. If you're negotiating, the bigger the organization, the more ironclad the contract. And that's true all around. Thank you, Sheila, for your offer. I will ask to see your contract and include it in the mix. Okay, anything else? Let's go to an even sexier concept, insurance. Oh yeah, woohoo. Cynthia, she's cheering out over here. Okay, if you could give me the next slide, Amanda. Okay, there are many types of insurance. I'm here today to talk about one type. Different types of insurance are for different purposes. I want to talk about liability insurance. Liability insurance, according to the folks at Investopedia, I am quoting them, the term liability insurance refers to an insurance product that provides an insured party with protection against claims resulting from injuries and damage to other people or property. Liability insurance policies cover any legal costs and payouts an insured party is responsible for, if they are found legally liable, except for intentional damage and contractual liabilities where you don't fulfill your contract, right? Unlike other types of insurance, liability insurance does not pay you, the policyholder. It pays third-party people who have had something happen to them. Now, the reason I bring this up is that in this day and age, there are many entities, including school districts, require from teaching artists to have at least $1 million of liability insurance. I carry a $2 million policy. It is the cost of doing business. You got to carry it. All right, could I have the next slide, please? These are places that offer teaching artists liability insurance. Now, please do not take this as my or the South Carolina Arts Commission's recommendation. I list these sources for teaching artist liability insurance as examples. I have not even listed the company with which I deal. I just want you to know that this type of insurance, teaching artist liability insurance, is readily available, and you must shop around and to determine which provider is best for you. If you'd stop sharing the screen. What questions do you have? Insurance. That
Jef,
exciting.
Do you have your insurance as an add-on to something like homeowners, or do
No.
you have yours as totally separate? Because I know you
Separate
can do
policy.
that, right?
Separate policy.
Okay.
I get a better deal that way.
But that
And,
is something that people can explore, right? Is adding it on to already existing insurance
you know,
policies.
you can talk to your existing insurance provider. Somebody says fractured atlas is wonderful. Good. The cost of insurance.
Oh, that's a cliffhanger.
Around
We'll never
$50 a
know.
year. You never know.
Oh, Jeff, we lost you right
$350.
when you said cost of insurance. Can you tell
I
us
know.
that again?
$350 is what I pay for my $2 million policy. And they all range about there. I like this policy because it covers me as a performer and a teaching artist. Some policies will not do that. Mine does. So I have one policy. And you know, when I work for cities as a $1 million policy. You're frozen again. Okay, you're back.
We heard when I work for cities.
Right, when I work for cities require $2 million of insurance for me to perform there. So that's why I carry a $2 million policy, even though most school districts just want 1 million. I need the 2 million for the other, and this is the easiest way to do it. Somebody, Sheila says hers is $425 a year. And location affinity insurance too. What's that? Sheila, what's that mean?
Oh, the name of the company is Lockton Affinity Insurance. That's my insurance.
Okay. Cool. All right. Any other questions about this sexy topic? All right. Let's get even more fun. How much work can I expect to get? Okay, if we could have the next slide, please. This is a year calendar for one school district. They let me share it with you. And I give it to you because if someone's thinking of being a teaching artist and they say, well, schools are in session, 29, 30 weeks a year. And so I can expect maybe 25 weeks. I'm not so sure. Because if you look at this, you can see weeks where a day is missing. Because it's a teacher workshop day, or it's a holiday, and end of school for the 9 weeks where they have to do administrative duties. most school districts stay out of the way of those when bringing in a teaching artist. And so I need you to note again that even though school districts have calendars like this, with ArtsGrow SC growing and allowing teaching artists to be hired by summer camps, that's a whole nother market. Allowing teaching artists to be hired for Saturday school, that's a whole nother market. After school programs, that's a whole nother market. Okay, so each of these markets you have to deal with differently and get the information like this. And okay, you can stop the share. Thank you, Amanda. Now to the question several of you asked. How much can I expect to make from investing in this lucrative career of being a teaching artist? All right. Now I talked to many people to find out this. I know what I make. And I asked other people. I asked people who hire teaching artists. And you need to know that it's a huge scale. At the very top, in the netherworlds of the clouds, are the teaching artists that are certified by the Kennedy Center, Wolf Trap, and big organizations like that. In South Carolina, there are at least 3 Kennedy Center partners. And those people, some of the wealthier school districts and arts organizations are used to hiring Kennedy Center style, Wolf Trap style artists and used to paying $1,000 to $1,500 or even more a day. I am not one of those artists. I'm a mere mortal. And so after talking to people who hire teaching artists like Ava Hughes and the folks at the Governor's School, if you could give me the next slide, please. All right. They suggest a fee for the person, $1,500 plus expenses. That's about what you can expect to get. Younger teaching artists with no track record will get less, right? Now, look at the top of this slide. When I was looking up how much teaching artists are being paid, I found more than one calculator. And you could plug into this calculator where you live, and it will give you the average rate of salary for a teaching artist and an hourly rate for teaching artists. This is the one from zippia.com. And I think it's out of whack, only because of my own experience. The only counties that they had in their database were Aiken County and Charleston County. And in the Aiken County one, they had the teaching artists coming in with a salary of $5,000 more than the median income of the county. In Charleston, it was $4,000 less than the median income of the county. So be aware, be wary when you're using these calculators, and talk to the sponsor you're working with rather than say, I think I should, because the salaries range. And if you are long in the tooth like me, you command a salary a little bit more. Okay, now the South Carolina Arts Commission used to recommend, they used to have a recommendation for the cost of a residency. They no longer do that. Ashley, can you tell us about that, please?
Yeah, we used to, on our website, we used to have what to expect as an average weekly or daily salary for a teaching artist. And we stopped doing that for a couple of reasons. One reason was it started to become the expectation. So for better or for worse, as the state agency, people started to take that as the truth. And so what we found was teaching artists were going into school districts and saying what their fee is. And they said, but the Arts Commission says it's this. And you're $300 over that. And we're not going to pay that. We're going to pay what they said it is, even though it was just a recommendation. And then the other reason for that is even within the work of a single teaching artist, you might have different fees for different situations. You might be working with a district that's well funded or is working under a grant that's paying for something very specific. And the next week you might be working in a district that's very underfunded and doesn't have the same resources. As a teaching artist, you reserve the right to change your fee based on the scenario as well. So we didn't want to lock folks into that from either direction. So that's why people have asked that. Why don't we have a recommendation anymore? And those are kind of the two main reasons why.
And Halea has, I don't know if I'm saying your name right. Please forgive me if I'm saying it wrong. She's with the Teaching Artists Guild, and they actually have a calculator. She's put it in the chat. And it accounts for experience if you're a beginning teaching artist or an experienced teaching artist. And she's got it right there for you. A pay rate calculator.
I like pirate calculator better.
I like pirate calculator. All right. Arrgh. Okay. Now here's a sidebar to this topic. When I negotiate with a sponsor, I lump all of my expenses into my fee. Okay. That means supplies, travel expenses, gas, airfare, food, lodging, anything else. I put it into my fee so that when I talk to a sponsor, they know what I'm talking about, right? I'm asking for this much money. I'm not going to turn around and ask for more because I need this. This is a better negotiating position, because if you're negotiating with a sponsor who is near you and you're not going to travel, you can give them a break. You can, and that people always like discounts rather than add-ons. So stay away from nickel and diming the sponsors with, this is my fee and this and this and this and this. That's not a good negotiating technique. Lump it all together, say this is my fee, and if you find you can give them a discount, do so. All right. So
Jeff, can I add to that really quickly, just specific to ArtsGrow SC? One of the limitations that we have in our funding, our funding is coming from ESSER 3 funds, so that's federal funding, and we have a cap on administrative fees, and travel is always administrative. So if you're saying like, this is my entire bucket amount of money, we're not then breaking out like, this is travel, this is computer, this is this is that. So I'll just say, as a funder, it's definitely better for us if you just give us that flat fee. And I imagine those that are here representing districts would probably say the same.
And along those lines, on the South Carolina Arts Commission Arts Directory, there are people from Nevada on the directory. And I have talked to sponsors who said, oh, that looked interesting. And I talked to them, but then they said, oh, that's my fee, but then you have to pay for my airfare and you have to put me up for the week and you have to feed. And it's like, all of a sudden it's unsustainable. They can't do that. So start with what you really think you need. Start there. Jeanette is not suitable because of visual arts and creation, installed works or individual works. I hear what you're saying, Jeanette, but I think you can make a best guess from all, you've done a lot of residencies, and I bet you can go through and see what you're at, what the average is. And you can adjust it accordingly. And that's what I do for travel. You know, I charge the same fee even if I go 2 hours or if I go 4. But that's because I made an average. But I hear what you're saying about that. Own calculations. That's okay. Yeah. What do you need is the whole thing. How much do you need to make to go somewhere for a week and share your work? What's it going to take? I agree. All right. So what questions do you have other than the ones that we've been talking about? Okay, here's a great book, a worksheet that helps you break it down. Great resource. It's in the chat, you guys. How do you get your name out there? Okay, that's what I'm going to talk about next. You read my mind, Nicole. All right, marketing, right? That's what we call it. And I know you guys need to know that I have been called a crass business person by other artists. They've said that to my face, that the way I approach this is crass and it's business, like it's not art. Well, I do my art, but you have to know how to make a living if you're doing your art. All right, good. Okay. First, a word about who currently hires teaching artists, right? Teaching artists can be hired by a district arts coordinator, by an arts education coordinator of a local or regional arts organization to do many schools in an area. They can be hired by a principal. They can be hired by a school cultural arts coordinator. They can even be hired by the ladies at lunch. A committee from the PTA may do the hiring. And you can even be hired by a classroom teacher herself or himself. Now, determining the target of your marketing is imperative. Important because as an artist and a business person, I have a marketing budget. It's up to me how I spend it, and I want to spend it the best. That gets me the most and best work. All right. Now, there are very many opportunities for you as teaching artists and small businesses to get your work in front of potential sponsors. From traditional methods like direct mail, right, to digital marketing of many kinds. You as teaching artists can employ a number of methods. You don't just do one. And you want to position your product, which is you as an artist in residence, right, in the market. Okay, got your pencils out? For lists of potential sponsors of teaching artist residencies in schools in South Carolina, I data mine the internet. All the schools are listed, right? And I can send them digital or hard copy approaches to marketing. All of the district arts coordinators are listed in their district administration website. So if you go to each district website, you find the arts coordinator directly in, market to them. All of the arts and the basic curriculum sites are listed. They're all, you can go straight to them. They are people who are used to having artists in their schools. You're not selling yourself to a school who's never had an artist, right? Northside Elementary, South, all of them, they do that. So you can data mine there. And there is even a list online of the arts coordinator at each of the ABC sites. And I send them a postcard every year. Right? I send it at right in the end of August, the middle of August, so they learn about it when they're making their decisions. Okay. You can also pay for lists. You can get them from social media sites. You can get them from email marketing houses, and you can get them from good old-fashioned direct mail houses. They all will sell you any database you want. I get approaches by email every day. Somebody wants to sell me this. And so that said, let's look at some of these. If you'll give me the next slide, please. Oh, somebody wanted to know an ABC site, Arts in the Basic Curriculum site. And they are schools in South Carolina who purport to work with an arts integrated or arts infused style. And they are given grant money by the state of South Carolina specifically to bring in teaching artists. So if you market to them, one, they have money for teaching artists and they are used to having teaching artists. That's what an ABC site is. It's a school. All right, social media marketing. Now, it doesn't matter if it's Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, or Pinterest. If you use it to market your services, you are marketing to the masses, even people who are not buyers for your product. Now, but social media does allow you to interact with the customers and answer all inquiries. Now, you can connect with what they call key influencers or customers and encourage them to spread the word by liking or sharing on Facebook, for instance, or even retweeting on Twitter. The next one, your website, we call that content marketing. You can use content marketing to educate everyone. If somebody goes to your website, they will learn about you and they will begin to trust you because, quote, if you have a website, you must be real. And I am not the prince from Nigeria who wants you to cash my check. Okay. When you work on your website, you want to create original written and visual content to generate leads. That's all it does. It generates leads. People may respond to you, or you can see that they have gone to your website and you can contact them. And you can become better known online. Now, to do this, you have to use keyword-rich online content. You can use blog posts, articles, you use YouTube videos, and all of them are closely related to the work and services that you offer. Email marketing. Email marketing has its good and bad points. It allows you to contact a bunch of potential sponsors because you have purchased that list and you know that they hire people like you. Okay. It's just like a direct mail campaign. It's cost effective, and you can also track data such as the number of people who opened your email. It's automated and it's immediate. You know when you have sent it, and purportedly you then know when it was received. Okay. The downside, junk mail, spam. People, if they don't know who you are, will click that box on the left and delete your email. So it may not be the best way to introduce yourself to potential sponsors. Word of mouth. I put a star next to that, and arts directories get listed. Word of mouth is the best. If you do good work, you get work, because all of these sponsors talk to each other. They have meetings all the time, and I have heard them say, well, what about so-and-so? And they talk about so-and-so and the positives and negatives of so-and-so, and they learn from each other. Now, this is very credible because these people are not paid, and everybody knows they're not paid. And very often they put their reputation on the line when they provide recommendations. So do good work. The word of mouth marketing will get you work. All right. Conferences, we call that network marketing. Networking is a terrific way to market your work. I suggest you find out what educational conferences involve your art form. And then you volunteer, yes, I said volunteer, to share a seminar or a session at any or all of these conferences. Yes, I know you have to pay to go to the conference. I know it takes time to go there. I know all of that, but it is money and time well spent. The exposure you gain by leading a workshop is immense. And then all the people who attended your workshop become folks familiar with you and your work. And then the word of mouth marketing that I spoke of earlier comes into play. You have successfully introduced yourself by doing your work, not by standing in a booth and selling your work, by doing it. And that's, as the commercial says, priceless. All right, showcases, just like conferences. Showcasing a part of your work as an artist or teacher is always a good thing, whether it's for libraries or senior centers or schools. There are showcases for everything. You may reach potential buyers who are new to you. So you're broadening your base and of folks who know you, and that's always important. Community service. Helping a charity or serving your community can create awareness about you, your art, your teaching, everything, and even your community mindedness. But you get the choice. You get to decide when and to whom you donate your work. All right. Now, I get calls all the time because I'm a performer. Well, can I perform at this? Can I do this? Can I do that? Well, truthfully, if I'm available and I am not always available, but if I'm available and I have a connection with the cause, I'll usually go and do it for free. However, I have a rule. If I don't get a thank you note thanking me for donating my services, I never go back again, ever, no matter how good it might be for my exposure. And that's because I think they don't understand what it's worth. You know, I make a living as this and I've donated it to you, but that's just me, and other people have different standards. Okay. Phone calls. I know it's weird. We don't use the phone that much, but if you already have a relationship with a sponsor, calling them is a good thing. You can chat and not just text or email. And that's about a relationship. All of these things, when you market yourself, you are building a relationship. You're not just getting a job. And at this point in my life, you need to know that 74% of my jobs are return engagements. I have built that relationship. And I'll talk more about that later. Okay. Phone calls. What I use the phone for is if I'm doing work in a school in Spartanburg, I will call several of the other arts coordinators from the schools and say, hey, I'm doing this, come watch. You know, I'll tell them at the office, you're going to come by. And that is like doing a showcase then. So the phone, you can use the phone, but you have to use it smartly. Direct mail. I love direct mail. I love direct mail because no one else is doing it. Usually a direct mail appeal will get a 1 to 3% response, of which you get a 14 to 28% work or money from it. Because no one else is doing it now, I get a 10 to 12% response. And of those people who respond, what was it? 82% of them want me. That's why they're contacting me. They've gotten the postcard. They go to my website. They think it's a good idea. They call me to find out when I'm available. So do not diss direct mail marketing in this day and age, because nobody gets mail anymore. And if you create a delightful direct mail appeal, you'll get results. Okay. All right. And then the last one, arts directories. Take the time to be listed. It's free. Applying to be in the South Carolina Arts Directory is free. And sponsors of teaching artist residencies actually do go to these directories to find talent, to find artists. They do that along with word of mouth marketing. That was the second highest thing when I talked to sponsors about this. They said, if they're in the directory, they've got credibility. Okay. Now, consider there are teaching artist directories in many places in the state. You can contact Ava Hughes and appeal to her to be in her directory. You can contact folks from Palmetto Arts Education Conference proposals are due. Oh, she's talking about conferences. Great. Way to go, Ava. Okay, so get listed. Now you can find out which other South Carolina arts organizations have artist directories by data mining. Go see what they're doing in Columbia, see what they're doing in Aiken, see what they're doing in Spartanburg, and find out from the Arts Commission Council, whatever they call it in that area, how teaching artists fit, and then see if you can fit in with them. Okay. Now, I offer all of these forms of marketing, but I want you to know one thing, and I mentioned it earlier. The most effective marketing is doing good work. If you'll give me the next slide, please. According to the Harvard Business Review, depending on which study you believe, acquiring a new customer is anywhere from 5 to 25 times more expensive than retaining an existing customer. Makes sense. You don't have to spend time, resources going out, finding a new client. You just have to keep the one you have happy. Okay. Alea posted something there too. If you're not convinced that returning customers are valuable, check out the research done by Frederick Reichhold of Bain and Company, because he shows that increasing your customer retention rate by 5% increases your profits from 25 to 95%. So do good work. All right, if you'll stop the share. What questions do you have, marketing? Okay, Ava put in Palmetto State Arts Education Conference proposals due May 16th for the next conference. Teaching Artists Guild has an international asset map, right? And you can use that as a promotional tool. All ABC schools are required to include all 5 arts in what they teach. They're required, but that's loose because they don't all have them. And that's where I get work. I get work very often at an ABC site, and I am their theater for the year. It happens because this year they don't have a drama teacher. All right. Do you manage your own website or hire someone to do it? I do it myself. I have hired people. It does take time out of my art, but I do it better because I know what I want. Nicole. And GoDaddy and all those big sites where you can make your own website, they make it easy. You can do it. Do I have to be a certified teacher to be a teaching artist? No, I am not a certified teacher. I'm just an artist. That's the difference between us, basically, is that I'm an artist who teaches, and a certified teacher in an art form is a certified teacher. They can teach all day, every day, all year long. Okay. Other questions? Well, good. Well, I thank you for squandering a bunch of your time with me today. And now we're going to go on to Kimberly because she's going to ask you to do a survey.
Hello, thank you all for being here. I'm Kimberly Washburn Motte, the Arts Learning Director at the South Carolina Arts Commission, and I'm getting ready to push a little survey out to you. So if you don't mind, we're going to ask you to take about 5 minutes and just fill out these 8 questions, which will help us continue to serve you as teaching artists or educators or whatever role you're serving in. So if you'll just take a few minutes, and then we'll jump back in with some more information about ArtsGrow SC and also about how to be listed as a member of our arts directory, as well as how to become a certified teaching artist on the South Carolina Arts Commission's directory. So just finish up those surveys and then we will be right on to our next thing. Someone asked where it is. It should have popped up on your screen. It should have just popped right up. And if it didn't pop up, then we can send it to you via email afterward. But for those of you who can see it, it should have just popped up.
Did it pop up for anyone?
At least one person has completed it.
Okay, we've got a couple of yeses and a couple of no's. Okay.
Electrons. These machines are going to make our lives easier.
We'll give everyone a few more minutes. So if you're working on it, if it's still up, it may still be up after you've answered it. I haven't ended the poll yet on my end. So if you see it and you're answering it, we'll give you just a couple more minutes And then also in the follow-up email with the video link to this session, we can include the same survey information. So you can also send this information back to us that way if you can't do it immediately here. But we have at least 6 people that have been able to complete it. Yeah, you have to answer all the questions with red stars or it won't let you submit it. Several required questions. If you don't see it, then it's probably not going to pop up for you. So it may be something that we'll have to send you via email after the session. So for those of you who do not see it, you may just have to get it via email rather than it popping up in your Zoom window. Okay. Just about 1 more minute.
You guys can stretch a little while you're waiting.
Yeah.
Always helpful.
Kimberly, let's ask, if you did not receive the email, can you put your email address in the chat bar? We can save the chat bar, and that way we'll know we know who to send that survey to.
Yes, thank you.
Because if you've entered the room under someone else's link, we'll only get their email address. So if you did not get the survey, just put your email address in the chat bar and we'll save it at the end of the session.
All right. So I'm going to go ahead and end it unless anybody else is actively typing and doesn't want me to end it up yet.
How do teaching artists' rates compare to regular teachers' pay? This is the crying shame. As an artist, I make 3 to 4 times what a teacher makes. I know. Sorry, Cindy. I know.
Dude, I'm saving this for my retirement. It's going to be a good little deal.
Yeah.
I'll be there soon. Well, 8 years.
Well,
unless I can't stand it. That's right. Okay, let's thanks.
Okay,
Nicole,
so thank you all for thank you all for participating in the poll that we're able to, and I have a list of emails here for people that will send that same poll out to just to get some feedback from you. And now I'm just going to turn it over, I think, to Ashley to talk a little bit about ArtsGrow SC.
We do. And before that, we actually, I got a question that was, I think, meant to go to everyone and it came to me. And so the question is, when it comes to your salary being significantly higher, you're a contract worker, so you still have to pay taxes and all the things and do your own do your own retirement and all of that would be part of a salary. Is that correct, Jef?
yes.
Okay.
Absolutely. I am my 401k.
Yes. All right, so we want to take a little bit of time and talk about what is ArtsGrow SC. And I am going to pull up my own slide deck. I'm going to screen share for just a minute. All right. All right. Can I get a thumbs up if you can see that? Great. All right, so just a quick overview of ArtsGrow SC. This may be a word that you're suddenly hearing in the zeitgeist and you're wondering, what is it? What is the difference between this and what has always happened in South Carolina? So we're gonna do a little bit of an overview here. Let's see, am I freezing? There we go. All right, so a little bit of a background on ArtsGrow SC. This is a partnership between the South Carolina Arts Commission and the South Carolina Department of Education. It is less than a year old from concept to execution. We started the idea of putting together a proposal last April. So we are not even a year into the origin of the thought of ArtsGrow SC and have come a really, really long way in the last 10 months. When we learned that ESSER funds were going to be available not only for school districts, but also at the Department of Education, we coordinated efforts, worked with the Department of Education to put together a $20 million partnership to use the arts to support learning loss that's happened from COVID over the past 2 years. The way that this breaks down financially is $10 million is focused on learning loss, $5 million on after school learning, and $5 million on summer learning. I think it's really important to mention this because I always saved this for the end of my presentation and realized that this actually belongs at the beginning. And that is, this is the only partnership of this scale in the US. As of last May, I was actually presenting on this all over the country, letting folks know about this partnership between the state arts agency and the state Department of Education. And since then, we do have some states who have created partnerships, but nothing on this scale. So we have level of research, we have number of partners involved, we have this massive amount of funding over the next 3 years. And something that you're going to see at the end is just as important as what I'm saying right now, which is the only reason we have been as successful as we are is because of partners. This is not just the Arts Commission doing our thing. There is no way we could do this on this scale and activate this broadly if it were just us. So it really does rely on partnerships to make things happen. One of the important things about using ESSER funds, and I just really can't emphasize this enough, especially if you're going to be talking to administrators in school districts, is that all of the work that is funded by ESSER 3 has to be evidence-based. Now, everyone in this room knows that learning in and through the arts is indeed evidence-based, but sometimes that can be a little tricky if you're going to administrators who are trying to make the decision between funding something that's an arts-based program or funding something that they have these test scores saying this thing. So one of the things that we've actually done is we have created an entire page of research specifically focused on learning in and through the arts. And I'll show it to you on our website in just a little bit. I say that for each of you as a teaching artist to say, if you are going to be reaching out to districts to potentially work with them and help them use their ESSER 3 funds to learn in and through the arts, it's really important that when you go to them, you do have that research in hand. And you go to them saying, these are evidence-based practices, because that is going to be the very first thing they think of. So talking a little bit about the goals and principles of this project, our 4 goals are very simple: to increase access to quality arts education, to develop arts-rich learning environments, to build and support infrastructure for arts learning at the district level, and then research and develop new innovative practices. So we're starting in the classroom, moving across not only in arts areas, but also in arts integration, thinking about things globally at the district level, and then even bigger than that, thinking about research and how we can impact the future. I think one of the most important things that I can say, if you remember anything, is that everything we're doing with ArtsGrow SC is put through an equity lens. Here are a few examples, but certainly not an exclusive list, making sure that we are making data-based decisions for program selection and grant priorities. That includes level of student poverty, reading scores, rural districts, districts that typically don't get a lot of support throughout our state, and then our own agency opportunity counties, which are counties across our state that have sort of historically been underfunded by us. We're using data mapping for communication regarding program sites internally and externally. One of the things that I think is the most important about some of our pilot programs that we are scaling up is making sure that we remember how many amazing assets we have in South Carolina. I think oftentimes when someone goes to work in a community, the approach can be, look what I have to bring to you. And what we're really trying to do here is, how can we work together to highlight what amazing things you have going on in your own community? And just a reminder to anyone that's going to be working in communities outside of your own is that individual communities are the experts on their own communities. We are developing and growing grant categories that will expand access and build infrastructure, which leads me to the most important component of equity is sustainability. We have no interest in coming in, funding stuff for 3 years and then disappearing. We are making sure that everything we build over the next 3 years with ArtsGrow SC is sustainable, whether that is sustainable at the local level with school districts or whether that is sustainable at the state level through other funding sources. We want to make sure that this work lives on and that students can learn in and through the arts for the foreseeable future. So a couple of different ways that we're working is we're expanding existing programs. This includes scaling in a pretty significant way, the ABC project. I dropped the link to that in the chat earlier. Some of our pilot programs we've actually been working on for the past 5 years include Engaging Creative Minds Summer STEAM Camp and Governor School for the Arts and Humanities drama-based Read to Succeed Camp. We have grown these programs from the ground up. They both started as an idea 4 or 5 years ago, and we have been scaling these up and piloting them in communities across the state. Those are both scaling up in a pretty major way as a result of ArtsGrow SC. And just a quick plug for the Governor School. If you are a drama-based teaching artist and you are interested in full-time salaried work for the next 3 years, Governor School is hiring. So if that is something you're interested in, let one of us know and we'll put you in touch with the right person. And then also scaling up our collaborative conference, which I'll talk about in just a minute when I get to the website. We're also developing new programs as we move through this work. And I'm just going to quickly run through some of these. Most of these are kind of based in schools. So we are working on a career pathway and arts industry certification for high school students. Right now, if you are a high school student and you are interested in becoming a plumber, there's a path for you in high school where you can end high school with a certification in plumbing and go directly into the field. We are currently working on building these out and piloting these in arts fields as well. We are working on developing arts integration in early childhood and pre-K, growing our district arts coordinator network, secondary level arts integration resources. Many of us know arts integration is pretty easy to find at the elementary level. It starts to get a little tricky at that middle and secondary level. So we are working on really putting some emphasis on secondary arts integration. Expanding arts-based after-school programs. The Instruction Hub, the South Carolina Instruction Hub, is a learning repository that every single school district in the state of South Carolina has access to. If you are a classroom teacher and you are here attending because you're interested in being a teaching artist and you don't know what the Instruction Hub is, talk to your administrator because every school district in South Carolina has access to this learning repository where you can access lesson plans, you can access videos, you can access photographs. It's a great resource. And then something that's near and dear to my heart, because I was a PACE teacher myself, is alternative certification pathways specifically for arts teachers. When I did PACE, my mentor was a biology teacher at a high school, and I was an elementary drama teacher. So we are working on building out a network of support for teachers who are entering the classroom with alternative certification so that they can stay in the classroom and be supported. Another important component of this work is research and program evaluation. I'm not going to get into the nitty-gritty of this, but it is safe to say that we are researching everything we do. We want to make sure that we are telling the story in an accurate way and in an impactful way. So we are doing a lot of research with all of the programs. We're doing program research. We are doing evaluations of specific programs, of grants that are happening. And that's going to be a really important component of this when it's all said and done. And then the last component of how we're working is through grant making. These are a couple of the grants at the Arts Commission, excuse me, that are specifically being funded by ESSER 3 funds that are part of ArtsGrow. And I will talk when we get to the website just a minute about some ways that you can plug into this. We don't currently grant specifically to teaching artists. I know for those that have been around for a long time, certainly before my time at the agency, that used to be a thing we did and we don't anymore. but that does not mean you can't benefit from our grant making. The Arts Teacher Support Grant, which next year is going to be a school art support, is certainly a grant where teachers and schools can use those funds to hire teaching artists. The ABC Advancement Grant, as Jef mentioned earlier, those ABC schools can do a lot of their work through residencies, through teaching artists. Our arts education projects, we have term time, which is during the school year in and after school. And then summer arts education projects are for community partners and local governments or higher ed. And that can certainly be in partnership with teaching artists. So we have a lot of opportunities, even if it's not a direct grant from the agency. You see here that there are a lot of opportunities for teaching artists to plug in. And then, as I said at the beginning, we could not do this work without our partners. Here are some of our major partners that we are working with right now. We are kind of in the process of preparing to work with, and this work could not happen without our partners. There is absolutely no way. There are only 3 of us. There's one Kimberly, one Amanda, and one Ashley, and there's no way we could do this work without all of these partners. So I want to take a quick minute to go through the ArtsGrow SC website. So this is artsgrowsc.org, something that you might want to pin or put in your bookmark. This is our website, and this is our primary way of communicating opportunities for anyone as part of ArtsGrow SC. What we've tried to do is break this out so that it is the easiest way for you to get to the information you need. You can click, we've got a top navigation button up here, but then you can also come down here, and very similarly to learn more, we've got these buttons here, and depending on who you are, you can actually enter. So if you are a teaching artist, you click through here. In just a second. I think everyone in my neighborhood has logged online, and now I'm running slow. There we go. So for each of these breakout pages, it's broken down into sections. We have grant funds that you could plug into, professional learning that you can plug into, direct programs and offers, and then other resources. So this is always going to be evolving. You can take a look at this now, you can take a look at this in 4 months, and it might look different because there are going to be new opportunities coming up for you as part of ArtsGrow. So right now, under grants, we have the arts project support. That's actually something that you as an artist can apply for, not necessarily for your teaching artistry, but for you as an individual artist, you can apply for that grant. It is a rotating grant, a revolving grant, and you can apply for that. As I mentioned earlier, those other grants, so for example, the Arts Teacher Support Grant, the Arts Education Project Grant, even though you can't apply for that directly, you can certainly partner with a school or community partner for them to apply for grants. Professional learning, here we are right now with this activity going on as we speak, but other professional learning opportunities are going to be posted here as well. We have an artist entrepreneur incubator happening. And you can click through there and learn more about that. Programs and offerings, I highly recommend right now you go to your Apple App Store or your Google Play and download the Arts and Basic Curriculum app. This app, it's a basic app right now, but we've invested a lot of money into building this out. And in the next 3 or 4 months, we're going to see this app become a real tool for connection across the state. It's free, there's no fee. You will be able to collaborate through the app. You'll be able to connect with teachers. When Jef was saying earlier about ways to market yourself, get on this app. It's going to be a great way for you to directly connect with teachers, with administrators, and it's not just for ABC schools. This is for all arts providers across the state. The South Carolina Arts Directory, Kimberly's going to tell us a little bit more about that next, so I'm going to skip right over that. I know you've been anxiously waiting. And then when we get into things like other resources, there's going to be other things listed here. So you can learn more if you are a classroom teacher or if you are working with a classroom teacher. There's a whole section just for classroom teachers, right? So I highly recommend bookmarking this page, learning more about us through the website. One thing I do want to mention here, we have a call out right here, and it is a call for arts and arts integration content. And if you click on this, it's going to send you to a page. We are actually collecting virtual teaching and learning content for a couple of things. That is for the One Stop Workshop, which is a free conference app. We have all of the different arts education entities across the state have come together. It is an on-demand conference. You just sign up for it once, and then you have access to all the content there. But we're always looking for new content for it. You can also contribute content for the Instruction Hub. And also we're collecting content for SCETV Know-It-All. We are paying a stipend for all of this content. So if that's something that you're interested in, go to the website, click on that button, and you can learn more about it. And then the other thing that I just want to mention about the website, you can click through and kind of learn all about all these different things. You can learn about us, about our partners. But if you go to contact us, and actually it might be on the bottom of every page now that I think about it. But if you go down to the very bottom, you'll see here that it says subscribe to our newsletter. We are sending out quarterly, sometimes more often, newsletters that give upcoming opportunities. So it will list all of the upcoming events. It will list all of the upcoming grants that are going to be available. If there's a call for, like I just mentioned, Governor School is looking for theater teaching artists. If there's a call for something, that will go into that newsletter. So make sure you subscribe to that, and that's how you're going to be able to find out more about things that are going on as part of ArtsGrow SC. And then the other thing, we just added a calendar. We spent the first, 8 or 9 months really building up. And so we have just now added a calendar so that you can see upcoming events. It's here on the homepage. And then I think it's also, where do we add that? Yes, upcoming events under resources. So you can see all of the upcoming things that are going on as part of ArtsGrow SC. So I'm going to take a breath, take a moment, answer any questions before we move on to Kimberly to talk about the Arts Directory. So Sheila asks, grants are only for South Carolina artists. So that the Arts Project Support Grant, yes, that is only for South Carolina artists because that is a direct grant to artists. But the Arts Teacher Support Grant, that goes to the school. So they can, and Kimberly will talk about this in a minute, if you are on the directory, even if you don't live in the state of South Carolina, you can, our funds can be used to bring you into a school. So those direct artist grants do have to go to South Carolina artists, but the school grants, those community grants, they can bring people in from out of state as long as you are on the directory. Let's see, certified to be teaching nurse. Yep, Nicole, Kimberly's going to talk about that in just a minute. Any other questions before we move on to the directory? All right, Kimberly, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Okay, thank you guys for hanging in there to the end to find out about the Arts Directory. I'm going to tell you a little bit about the South Carolina Arts Directory and the South Carolina Teaching Artist Certification process. So the sort of two levels of the South Carolina Arts Directory. And I'm going to show you, I'm going to share our website with you. I'm going to share my screen so that you can see how to find the Arts Directory and also how to apply for the Arts Directory. So let me get that pulled up. All right, so if you go to southcarolinaarts.com, that is the homepage for the South Carolina Arts Commission. Right up on the top bar, you'll see a little tab that says South Carolina Arts Directory, and I'm just going to click that tab. Now, the South Carolina Arts Directory is a directory of artists and teaching artists working in South Carolina. This directory, the reason that this is valuable to people that are hiring teaching artists and artists is that the people that are listed on the directory have all been through a vetting process. So they have all submitted information about themselves, work samples, examples of their work Those have been vetted by a team of people in our agency, and then they're listed here. So when an arts organization or a school comes to look for an artist to invite in their school, into their school, then they can look through a list of people that have been vetted and are trustworthy. So you'll see here that you can go through some different filtering processes to get to exactly what you want to look at. So if you're searching for someone in a particular location, someone working in a specific discipline, or you'll see down here that you can choose someone that's a South Carolina Arts Commission teaching artist. Now, the South Carolina Arts Commission teaching artists are sort of a subcategory of artists in the Arts Directory. So in order to be listed as a South Carolina certified teaching artist, you must first be listed in the Arts Directory. And I'm going to show you how to do that in just a minute. But the certified teaching artist listing is hopefully a value add. So there is more information that you have to submit for our education team to vet you as a teaching artist. And once you have gone through that vetting process, then you are listed as a teaching artist. This helps teachers know that not only are you a wonderful artist, but you're also fully qualified to come into this classroom and teach students for a week or a day or whatever that residency term might look like. So you're welcome to search the Arts Directory here just by going to that tab at the top. And if you want to learn a little bit more about how to get on either the South Carolina Arts Directory or become a certified teaching artist, you do that from here. So let me show you. Just from that first page, you're going to click this link that says learn more about South Carolina Arts Directory. And as you scroll down, you'll see some information about that. And you'll see two different things. You'll see apply to join the directory, and you'll see some information about teaching artist certification. So if you are not listed on the directory at all, I recommend you start with apply today to join the directory. And when you do that, you'll see some information about what's required in order to join the directory. This does take approximately 4 weeks. So from the time you apply until you are then approved and then listed on our website, it can take about 4 weeks. So do factor that in as you're thinking about a timeline for applying to be listed on the directory. You'll see the benefits of being on the directory and then the requirements required to apply. So here is this information for the application. You'll have to submit a biography, a photograph, tell us which art disciplines you're working in, what areas of the state you would like to work in, an artist statement or an organization statement. You'll see information, you'll have to submit information on who you're hoping to impact, a resume, 2 professional letters of support, up to 5 work samples, and then up to 3 supplemental materials. So that could be testimonials, that could be additional letters of recommendation, things like that. So you'll submit this information through a piece of software on the internet called Submittable. And once you have been through this application, you will then, if you're accepted to be on the Arts Directory, you'll have your listing built out on our website, and then you will be invited to go through the teaching artist certification if you choose to. So this is by invitation. Once you are approved, you won't see anywhere to fill out the application for teaching artist certification. If you're already on the directory and you would like to apply to this, you can always email me and I can get you that application. If you're new to the directory, once you've been approved, you'll automatically be sent this application for teaching artist certification. So it does require some additional things that are useful for teachers or school administrators to know as you're going into their classrooms. So you're also going to give information about yourself and about your teaching artistry. But some of the additional information that we're going to ask from you to become a certified teaching artist are a video recorded classroom observation. So we would like to see a video of you teaching in a classroom. We'd also like to see 2 sample lesson plans. And then some supplemental items, up to 3 files that could sort of be testimonials or letters of support, and then 3 professional references. So this is a little bit more information that we need from you, but there are also added value to being listed as a teaching artist. Many of the South Carolina Arts Commission's grants require that artists that are working with one of our grantees, so if that's an arts organization or an art teacher in a school, we require through that grant that they work with someone listed on our arts directory. And many school districts require that teaching artists have this teaching artist certification. So for you as a teaching artist, being on this directory is sort of a pre-step to being prepared to go into the classroom as a teaching artist. So this is sort of just a quick overview of that. When you're ready to apply, you can click the Apply Now button, and you'll see here that you will be prompted. This is the Arts Directory application for the new applicants. You'll click Apply. You'll be prompted to create an account in Submittable, which is where you'll upload all the information that's listed. So all of this happens right on our website. Your information comes directly to us. That information is evaluated in approximately 4 weeks. Then we get back to you with whether you have been accepted to the directory, your listing is created, and then at that point you would be invited to go through the teaching artist certification process if you're interested. Kind of a mouthful, but I would love to answer any questions if you have them.
Kimberly, I want to add a couple of other added values for the teaching artist certification. And those of you that have heard me talk in various places over the last 5 years, you have been so patient with us as we have figured out exactly what this directory is and what those values are. You have been through us requiring it, you've been through us recommending it, you have been up, you have been down, and we're very thankful for your patience. But what we've landed on is that grants that are going to schools and districts do require you to use, if you're going to use our funds, require you to use a member of the directory. It does not require you to use a certified teaching artist, but one of the added values of that is that schools and districts know that you're vetted that extra level. You have submitted lesson plans, you have submitted samples of yourself in the classroom. We also were working on a couple of technical things behind the scenes. And one of the added values of being a certified teaching artist is what's essentially like an Amazon review, where folks who have employed you to come into their classroom can actually give you a review. They can give you stars, they can tell you what was good about working with you, and that lives on your page, which is a huge added value if you're good. And you know, I mean, as something, Jef, you've taken advantage of, you've done that, you've asked people to leave reviews for you so that other schools, you know, Jef was talking about word of mouth earlier. That's sort of an internet word of mouth, is that people can see, oh, Cindy Riddle gave Jef 5 stars. I should call her and ask what her experience was like working with Jef.
And it's free.
It's free, right? Exactly. So I just think that that's really important to talk about. And then, as I mentioned earlier, we're thinking about other ways to add value to both the directory and this certification. One of the things that we're talking about for those certified teaching artists is professional development just for certified teaching artists, is document sharing just for certified teaching artists. So we're trying to add more values. We're also looking at future digital showcases specifically for certified teaching artists, because I know some of y'all want the booking conference back, and that's not going to happen in real life, but we are looking at ways to have virtual showcases for folks. So we're thinking about all those other ways that we can add value to becoming a certified teaching artist.
And on top of that, a certified teaching artist will also have an enhanced webpage listing on our site. So the regular Arts Directory artists will be able to give biographical information, and they'll be able to tell us, you know, what discipline they work in and what they do. But as a certified teaching artist, you'll also be able to give information about the residencies that you provide. You'll be able to talk about any resources that you offer teachers before your residency, any supplemental materials during, and then post follow-up activities that you'll have afterward. So as a teaching artist, your information on the website will be much expanded from just those arts directory listings.
Good. Thank you, Kimberly. Thank you, Ashley.
So Nicole had a question. It seems like you should probably be a teaching artist already in order to get certified. Is that correct? I think it's beneficial to have some experience working with students. So for example, your recorded session, it doesn't necessarily have to be in a classroom. Maybe it's teaching a summer camp or something like that. So what we're looking for that certification is that you know how to write a standards-based lesson plan, which Jeff's going to talk more about tomorrow, I believe. We'll go all into standards. And also that you know how to carry out a lesson plan. So we're just trying to connect the paperwork to practice and see how you perform in both ways. And so that could be something formal like a school setting, or it could be more informal. Danette, do you have a question?
Hi, thanks. I was wondering if you were pursuing reciprocal understandings with teaching artists in other states that have already been through kind of rigorous vetting processes, or are you sticking with your own schedule? Thanks.
May I speak, Kimberly? Don't be lazy. This is the cost of doing business. When I go to apply at Hardee's for a job, I don't say, oh, I just applied at Wendy's, right? And so this is the cost of doing business. You have to get in with that organization. And if you want to let somebody else sell you, that's your business. But like I said before, I want control of what I do. And so I'm willing to spend the time and the effort and the energy to get onto this directory.
I'm not being lazy, Jeff. It was mentioned at some previous discussion about this particular program. So thank you, but it was previously mentioned, so I was just following up on it. Thanks.
And
Sure.
I'll speak to that. So it is something that we have really tried to do. What we've discovered is that when it comes to other states' certifications, it's just ended up being apples to oranges. Every state sort of has their own little ecosystem of what is required by their state laws, by their own school districts, or whatever that is. We had really hoped to have state to state reciprocity, in particular with our neighboring states. And I'm not saying that that's completely off the charts for the future. It's just not something that we've had a ton of movement with. Now we are looking at, we have some official partners that if someone is a teaching artist with those official partners, that we do have an understanding with them that they can become a teaching artist with us. But the state to state thing has ended up being a little more complicated than we hoped it would end up being.
I think the word certification might be part of the vernacular that is not causing problems, but there are colleges who are offering certification, two-year certifications, and that's a very different process than what you're talking about, which is very different than what some other groups are talking about. So I think maybe partially it's the verbiage around it and what the requirements are. So thank you for the clarification. I appreciate it.
Lona wants to know the partner organizations, Ashley.
Sure. So right now that is Engaging Creative Minds. That is the Metro, which is in Charleston. That is the Metropolitan Arts Council, which is in Greenville. And that is Arts Access SC, which is statewide.
And even for those partners, so if you are a teaching artist with those partners, you will still have to fill out sort of an application. It's a little bit of an expedited application, but you still have to give us all the information that we need to create your web page. So, you know, in that application process, a lot of the information you're giving us is going to be living on your website. So just kind of think about it that way. Either way, you're going to have to give us some stuff.
Well, and the other thing I would add is we do leave it to those partners' discretion as to who they recommend as part of the directory and the certification. So for example, Engaging Creative Minds has a stacked, they have like a tiered system for their teaching artists. So they actually have teaching artists that come in as young, emerging teaching artists, and they actually grow within the organization. And then they've got teaching artists that have been doing it for 15 years. And so we kind of allow, for lack of a better word, those partner organizations to choose from their own lists which artists they think have essentially, you know, the same level of rigor as what we're asking for. So if you are an Engaging Creative Minds artist, teaching artist, that doesn't necessarily mean that they will invite you to become part of the state teaching artist certification. So I just kind of want to give that one little factor for our partners there.
And if you have any questions about the teaching artist certification or the arts directory process, I'll throw my email address into the chat box and feel free to just reach out, and I'll be happy to assist you in any way that I can.
And there she is. Well, thank you, Kimberly, for that. And thank you, Ashley, for earlier talking about ArtsGrow South Carolina. We're getting to where we're wrapping things up. And I want to remind you that there is one registration for both days. So use your link that you used to get into today, tomorrow, if you return. I just wanted to say that up front. And Amanda, if you'll give me the addendum slides here. Okay. Tomorrow at 4 o'clock, we will do the second half of the nuts and bolts of teaching artistry. And the guests will be Ava Hughes from the Arts Partnership of Greater Spartanburg. She'll be talking about pre and post-residency forms that sponsors use. Followed by Ava will be Lori Patterson, the arts coordinator at Pine Street Elementary School in Spartanburg. She's going to talk about what I call the care and feeding of a teaching artist, what the teaching artist can expect of the sponsor, what the sponsor will expect of the teaching artist. Okay. And I will be working on what teaching artists do before, during, and after a residency. On-site resources, scheduling, school culture, language, lesson plans, standards. I'm going to touch on all of this. And I know each one of those is like a 2-hour session in itself, but I am going to talk about those little things. So that's tomorrow. So we hope to see you then. And then, if you would, give me the next slide, please. If you cannot attend tomorrow but want to know when our next webinar is, April 26th and 27th. And it will specifically focus on the South Carolina College and Career Ready standards and how to use them as a teaching artist when you're creating arts education residencies and integrated lessons. So it'll be 4 hours focused on standards. I know that's not enough, but that's what we will do. Okay, and there's the South Carolina Arts Commission website tag at the bottom. And then if you go, that's our final one. I want to do a shout out to all of our partners, the ABC Project, South Carolina Department of Education, ArtsGrow SC, and the South Carolina Arts Commission. I'd like to thank everybody, Amanda for running the ship today. Everybody give Amanda her props here. And to Kimberly for bringing us up to date on the directory, to Ashley for bringing us up to date on ArtsGrow. And you need to know that a lot of the stuff on ArtsGrow SC, I had not seen yet because I looked at it last week. That's how fast they're adding things. So it is something you need to revisit. Okay. And then Halea says that the National Teaching Artist Gathering, that's right, April 5th through 7th is free. And she's given you the link to that. That was announced last week, and we're all excited. So on behalf of the South Carolina Arts Commission and all of the presenters today, I bid you adieu. I hope you have a good afternoon and hope this has been helpful. And when you come tomorrow, if you have any questions about what we did today, we will have a time for that. So I know you'll cogitate tonight. I sleep on things. So if you do that, you know, we're willing to keep the conversation going.
Thank you, everyone.
Now it's time to